Hello, I'm Harrison, and I've joined the Magus Instrumentalis team. I'm a musician and a game developer, and I use VCV as a tool to construct generative audio systems. So in this video, I'd like to show you a really intuitive way to set up your hardware synth and the Ars Memorium in VCV Rack, so you can spend your time twisting knobs and not reading through manuals. So whether you're plugging in through MIDI in or USB, most hardware synths send and receive MIDI CC messages assigned to each parameter, like filter cutoff and envelope decay. So while you can find pages of these assignments in the manuals, we can actually use VCV's MIDI-MAP module to directly learn the CC parameters we want to tweak and then virtually connect them to one of the 16 channels in the Ars Memorium. So that way you can save your sounds and configurations and then smoothly interpolate between them. So I'll show you how to set that all up. All right, so I have a blank patch here with just MIDI-MAP, the Ars Memorium, and CV to CC. What we want to first do is we want to connect MIDI-MAP, and since this is plugged in through USB, it shows up right under here. It's class compliant. What I can do is I can just map a parameter, and it'll tell me the CC channel that parameter is on, and then I can click one of the knobs right here on the Ars Memorium. So now, if I move, if I move the knob, it moves the corresponding Ars Memorium knob. And now what I want to do is I want to let Ars Memorium send that parameter's values back into the synth, so that when we recall it using the Ars Memorium, we'll get it to control the synth. And we can do that through CV to CC. So we just look at the MIDI-MAP CC value, and we'll fill that in over here. So it's channel 43, and then we'll just connect the first output into the input of the CV to CC. And of course, we're just editing right now, so let's turn it into edit mode. And as we can see, it lights up over here, and we can do that for the other parameters that we want to work with. And the reason that this is so intuitive is because you don't actually need to be looking at the lists in the manuals to figure out the CV mappings. You can just, I can tweak a parameter, it'll show up under MIDI-MAP, and then I can connect it to a knob on the Ars Memorium and then connect it back to CV to CC. So then when I eventually start making presets with the Ars Memorium, it'll be a one-to-one connection between the parameters on my synth and the parameters that I'm changing in the patch. So let's just update that over here. Now keep in mind, we're just editing at this point. So we don't actually need to connect the CV to CC to the Minilogue XD right now. At this point, it shouldn't be a real issue, but you want to avoid sort of feedback loops of CC messages. I like to keep only one of the MIDI-MAP or the CV to CC on at a time. So let's just connect up some more parameters right here. So I'm going to show you how to get my synth's joystick set up, but the process should be the same for whatever synth you have. So I have the Korg Minilogue XD here. So the first thing I do is I unmap all the parameters that are currently assigned to the Minilogue on the hardware. I don't want, when I'm twisting this around, for the pitch to be bending or anything like that. So now this should be just sending messages over USB for its current position. So we've got two ranges to worry about. We've got the x-axis and the y-axis. So to start with the x-axis, I know that it's sending pitch information, pitch bend. And pitch bend is actually its own specific MIDI channel. It's its own specific MIDI message. It's not actually controlled by any CC stuff. So that's why we had the MIDI CV module here. It's because we're accessing this one parameter, PW, meaning pitch wheel, and we can access that. And if you look at the scope, we can see that, okay, if you turn the X in the positive direction, it goes up to 5. And if you do it in the negative direction, it goes down to -5. So both sides of the X-axis are on the same parameter of just the pitch wheel. And this is important because it's going to be different for the Y-axis. All right, so we know that it goes from -5 to 5. And we know that the velo module, which we need to get that sort of the joystick sort of feeling that we're looking for, we know that it takes a range of 0 to 10 volts. So we need to offset this -5 to 5, which is sometimes referred to as bipolar because it goes from a negative value and a positive value. We need to offset it by 5 volts. And we can do that using the 8-vert module. The 8-vert will attenuate signals and it also generate constant voltages. So we've got the 8-vert module right here. We've got unity, which we can use to add that constant offset of 5 volts to our pitch wheel's voltage. So let's first plug in the pitch wheel into the unity module. And then let's generate this constant voltage. So it does, 8-vert does things in percentages. So 5 volts would just be 50%. And as you can see, if I just check that in the scope, it's generating a 5-volt signal. So great. So we can add this through the unity module. And then if we check that in the scope again, all right, so it goes up to 10 and it goes down to 0. So great. So we turned that signal from a bipolar signal into a unipolar signal. See, now it's all in the positive range. It doesn't dip below 0. So now we can just throw that into the velo module and into the Ars Memorium. And now let's check to see if it's got the movement we want. We're just looking at the X-axis right now. All right, so great. If I move it a little bit over, it'll keep moving and it will move down and up. So great, the X-axis is all set up. The Y-axis is a little more complicated for my synth at least, and you'll have to experiment to see how it works with yours. But for me, if we check in MIDI-MAP to see what CC messages it's sending, we see that the positive Y-axis is sent on CC channel 1, and the negative Y-axis is sent on CC channel 2. All right, so we're not going to use the MIDI-MAP to actually map that channel onto something. What we're going to use is MIDI CC to grab those parameters. So if we check from CC channel 1 and CC channel 2, let's see what ranges we're working with. All right, the positive Y axis, okay, it goes up to 10 at the top, and the negative Y axis, all right, see, it also goes up to 10. So we've got a problem there. Not only are the ranges from 0 to 10, which might be good in one case, but we've got both of them that are going in the positive direction. So we'll have to subtract that the negative Y-axis from the positive Y-axis, and we'll also need to add that 5 volts. But you can see here by doing some quick mental math that we're still not in the range that we want. So that's where the 8-vert module comes in again, because we can attenuate the ranges from, instead of being from 0 to 10, they can just be from 0 to 5, so that when we add them all together, they stay within the 0 to 10 range. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So if you plug the X-axis into 8-vert, and we take it back out to check the scope, as you can see here, the positive y-axis, which is what I meant, it's not doing anything. It's because we're taking the percentage. So if we do 50% again, we can see that, all right, so now it just goes up to 5, and this will be important. And now we can do the same thing with the negative y-axis. So let's see, here's where it's different, is that we actually need to do negative 50. So this will give the negative y-axis the sort of downward range that we want. So let's plug that back into scope, and now we can see that, all right, we can go up to 5, and then we can go down to -5. All right, so now it's starting to look like what we were working with the x-axis. So now let's take these and let's put them into Unity. That way it's all one signal. All right, so now we've gotten this these two CC channels, these two CC values, and we've turned it into a single bipolar value. And now the process to give it that offset is the same. We've already generated the 5 volts up here. So now we're just plugging in the 8-vert constant 5 voltage into the Unity. And now it's at that 5 volts that we're looking for. So now if we go up, it goes up to 10 volts. We go down, it goes down to 0 volts. Great. So now we can plug that into the Velo module again, and let's check it out. All right, so the x-axis is working like we want. Now if I go, oh, look, so if I go down, it goes up, and if I go up, it goes down. So right now it's inverted. And that's why we have the vert module. So now you can just plug right into one of the vert inputs, and you can plug that back into the Ars Memorium, and look at that. So now we have all the movement we're looking for. And, you know, it's a bit of a process. You have to use scope a lot to sort of figure out what ranges you're looking at. But this is a really important skill to have when you're using modular and VCV, is knowing how to get a range and of voltages into the certain ranges you want. So now that we have that all set up, we can go to recalling our settings. So now I'm going to turn into recall mode. I'm going to accept. We're going to start to output these CV messages from the Ars Memorium back to the synth. I'm going to turn off MIDI-MAP just to, you know, avoid any feedback issues. And now if I play a big note, so now we can interpolate between the presets. So going back to the patch I showed at the beginning of the video, the whole top portion here should look really familiar to you. You know, I'm just accessing the joystick over here. We've got it plugged in the Ars Memorium, which is controlling some timbral settings on the synth. But we can see here, the top 4 lanes are actually controlling a lot of parameters down here. And these are actually sort of generative aspects. We've got an 8-step sequencer right here, for which one of the channels in the Ars Memorium is controlling the speed. We've got another channel in the Ars Memorium that's affecting some parameters of this sample and hold rectification down here. And this is using the same technique that was shown off in the full wave and half wave rectification with vert video that Ryan made on the channel. And it's giving this 8-step sequence some offset voltages. So while the sequencer is playing the same notes in the same order over and over again, we're getting some random variations on those notes. And this parameter is actually controlling the amount of those random variations. So on certain presets, there'll be more and more randomness, whereas some of them control the offset so that there's less randomness. And we have the last parameter over here controlling the range of this sequence's pitch value. So we can change the depth of the intervals using one of the Ars Memorium parameters. So as you can see here, well, you can connect certain things one-to-one to parameters in the synth. You can have other aspects of the generative sequences that are being controlled by the Ars Memorium all the same. So you can have a hybrid between some synth parameters, some sound, some generative aspects, and so on. The possibilities are endless with this. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have fun messing around with the Ars Memorium and your hardware synths. And we'll have more videos of the new Madness suite coming out soon.